And so again, want to welcome everyone to our bite-sized learning series. If you would like to, we would love to see where everyone's from and what you're wanting to get out of the conversation today, talking about engaging students in a distracted and digital age. We don't have those, right? We don't have distracted students. So I'm Rhonda Blackburn. I am the Chief Information Officer for Texas DLA, and I'm also the Professional Development Co-Chair. I'm also the Director of Academic Partnerships at Science Interactive. You see a lot of other stuff up there that I've done, but the most important thing to me is the love of learning. That's why I absolutely love this series, because every single month I get to learn something new and exciting. So glad you are here to join me with that. My other co-chair is Kelly Irwin. Unfortunately, she's not able to be here, but we love to have her here when she is and help put this all together. We are here with our bite-sized learning series. Every single month we have another webinar for you. If you go to our website and go to webinars, you can click on bite-sized learning and you'll get to all of our webinar information. So today we are going to look at engaging students in a distracted digital age. Can't wait to jump into that in just a minute. But I wanted to also let you know next month we are working on putting a webinar together on AI and accessibility. That is, students with disabilities and stuff like that, or individuals with disabilities and AI, not access. So a little different, but trying to get that together for you. So be on the lookout for that, and we will get you more information out there. So we would love you to come and join us at our Fall Leadership Workshop. It is October 16th through the 18th in Marble Falls, beautiful area. And hopefully at that time, it's even prettier, getting into the fall a little bit more. But come and find out a little bit more about your leadership styles and being able to connect with other people in Texas DLA. Also want to make sure you know, and it's on your calendar, is our 2025 conference. It will be in Denton, Texas this year, March 30th through April 2nd. We also have a virtual part that's April 22nd through the 23rd. We would, again, love to see you there. Call proposals are open. So if you want to share your knowledge or experience or something you've done or researching, we would love to see you there as a presenter. So definitely go and do that. I believe in next week, the registration actually opens. And so Lisa can correct me if I'm wrong on that one, but it will be opening very, very soon. This is a Zoom meeting. We are recording this as we are going, and you have availability of the chat. As everyone, I'm seeing a lot of things coming in right now. And we do ask that if you're not talking or asking a question or things, do put yourself on mute, just so that way we don't have any background noise. And I will do that because my dogs will probably start barking at some point, and we don't want that in our webinar. So now I want to turn it over to James and Ben and to talk to us about engaging students in a distracted digital world. If I can get my thing back over here to stop sharing, and I will turn it over to them. I can't wait to hear about it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Rhonda. We are excited to be here. I'm going to ask the classic Zoom question. Are we able to see my screen okay? Is that coming through all right?
Yep. We see it.
Perfect. Well, we are excited to be here with all of you. It's good to see familiar faces and familiar names. Within TXDLA, it's one of our favorite places to be, and are grateful for the opportunity that we have to be with you and present on something that I think is on all of our minds and keeps us up at night. So in doing that, I think beforehand, my name is James Taylor. We are from Pronto. Ben, I'll let you introduce yourself here in just a second. And Pronto is a communication platform, and our whole focus has been how to truly engage, capture a student's attention and maintain that attention through humanizing, our learning and our communication approach, which has just been a fantastic journey and something that is really exciting and fulfilling as we see students truly engage. When they're engaged, it's amazing what they can accomplish and become. And we're just excited to be able to be here and be a part of that. Ben, I'll turn it over to you if you want to introduce yourself, and then we'll get going.
Yeah, absolutely. Two things, really. First and foremost, my name is Ben Goodney. Great to meet everybody. There's also a couple names in the participant list right now that we've had the chance to meet with in the past. So new friends and old, thanks for taking the time to sit in today. I know we have this scheduled out for about an hour, but in honor of all things distracted digital age and attention spans, we would have to be talking about some of the the most just attention grabbing and interesting things the next 60 minutes to hold you for that long. We don't plan to, but for the time that we are presenting, hopefully there's enough in, roughly 30 minutes or so that we can keep you guys engaged and up to date on a lot of things that are happening when it comes to students and engagement in this extremely crazy age that we're dealing with right now. So again, thank you everybody, and I'm really happy to dive into it.
Awesome. Well, to get started, what a cool day to be here, September 11th. This is a day that obviously is a historic day in our nation, and one that, we're grateful to be here with you on such a day, and are mindful of the lives lost during September 11th, and anyone, especially on this call, that knew someone or was affected maybe in a more personal way. So just want to make sure we're mindful of that, and grateful for this opportunity that we have to be with you on this day. So again, Rhonda, Lisa, thanks so much for the opportunity that we've been given. So with that, we'll jump in. Engaging students in a distracted digital age. This is something that, again, as mentioned, has been and is on our minds often, right? These students that we serve and want to see succeed, they on their phones almost constantly, and they're communicating almost constantly, but it seems that they're communicating with anyone but us, or engaging with anyone but us. How can we improve that? How can we help the students see that? And one way that we kind of want to, in an obvious way, but make sure we're all on the same page and aligning our understanding of the real impact that can be made through truly capturing and maintaining the attention spans of the students that we serve. It's no secret the improvements that we would see in so many of the focal areas that we lose sleep over semester and year over year. And this is something that we really want to focus on and learn. How can we better capture that attention and then maintain the attention to engage our students?
Absolutely. In honor of what we went over, talking about capturing and maintaining attention, what doesn't capture and maintain a student's attention? This slide that you guys see right now is probably the biggest no-brainer that you're going to see today, this week, and maybe even this year, right? Students are notoriously bad when it comes to communicating through email. It's not even the fact that they're hard to engage with. Students don't want to engage through email, okay? One of the stats that I think is super important to walk over, in higher education, only 1 in 8 emails are actually engaged with. These aren't stats that we pull out. That's actually according to Utopia. I'm sure some of you probably think I would beg to differ that it's even higher than that, right? We have to think about, when it comes to email, how a student was brought up using email. What does the actual paradigm look like? When I was younger and I went through the phase of starting an email, I actually started an email to use other forms of communication. It was actually a vehicle that I used. What do I mean by that? I started email, frankly, to get into Facebook, so I could actually communicate with people in a way that I wanted to communicate. Never, even throughout my time in college, would I ever reach for my phone and think email is the way that I want to communicate. I really hope one of my best friends, classmates, colleagues sent me an email so we can go back and forth all day. It's never that case, right? So oftentimes we see institutions who are, frankly, you could use the word burnt out, frustrated is probably a better usage, of reaching out to students and the emails back and forth, unless it's 11:59 and the assignment or test is due at 12 o'clock and they have questions. It's frankly a terrible way to communicate with your students. If you do find yourself right now sitting here thinking, actually, I think students really like to communicate through email. It's been very effective for us. They seem very engaged through it. I would definitely let you know you're in the minority for sure, right? That's fantastic that that's happening for you, but for the majority of people across the country, and frankly, this is even a global standpoint now, email is definitely not a very effective way to communicate and access your students.
One thing that's interesting is you think about, again, the psychology behind why students used email initially is, I think it should help form and condition our usage of email. Oftentimes we think, well, I hope this is the one that's going to land. So we'll add even more information into that email, which pulls the attention span even more. Emails are formal, right? They're dear so and so, thank you for this. When most of our students just don't communicate that way anymore, they're used to short form. They're used to very quick, real-time messaging. Because of that, email has not only become archaic and a traditional form that's not used, but something that we oftentimes rely on too heavily. And because of that, and now that, again, assuming we're all on the same page that we struggle with email, we oftentimes look to solve this problem of engagement. How can we engage our students? We get the questions, why won't my students respond? Why won't they engage? What are they missing? Why won't they just do what I ask them to do? And although all these questions are fair, I think when we first ask ourselves, are we even accessing or capturing the attention of our students in the first place? We can start to think, you know what, it may make sense why my students don't respond, why they're less engaged, why they missed that email. It's not something that they've ever, been conditioned to. We hope more than anything to further your understanding today and further understand why accessing your students is the first piece of the puzzle to engagement.
So one thing that's very important as well, we actually have to look at the digital habits of students. This picture that you see on the right side of the screen is a very common instance for your students when it comes to how they organize their phone, how they communicate. Some stats that are pretty important to walk over as well. So a student, on average, will pick up their phone every 5.5 minutes. That's probably not surprising to many of you, but that comes out to roughly 262 times a day. First thing they're going to pick up in the morning, last thing they're going to put down. They're on it all throughout the day. Now, when we look at a student's phone, your average student will download roughly 23 apps. What are majority of these apps? Sure, you're going to have banking, you're going to have a couple random games. Majority of the apps, though, are things like GroupMe, Twitter, WhatsApp, Discord, Instagram, Reddit. I could sit here all day and go on and on. All of these apps at their core, they're all just different forms of communication. It's how a student actually consolidates their social life. It would make sense if you had a one-size-fits-all, maybe just a Instagram or a Twitter. Maybe that's how some of us use our social media to communicate, not your students, though. I think it's important to think about, for a lot of the faculty members on this call, you probably use something internally right now. Let's say Microsoft Teams, for example, to communicate with just your team members throughout the day. You understand that Microsoft Teams is just for work, right? You can consolidate your professional life to this form of communication. A student does the exact same thing outside of the classroom. But when we're talking about ways that a student actually wants to engage, text message or iMessage, we are very similar to students in this paradigm. We want to communicate with our friends and family here. It's election season, right? I'm sure everyone on this call has received text messages from politicians on who to vote for, who not to vote for. That shopping program that you signed up for, that's sending you 25% off, or frankly, every other spam and scam that comes through, right? We don't want that coming to our text message. This is more intimate conversation. I have my phone number shared with somebody that I very much likely know. I don't want those spams and scams coming through. Not that hard to understand, right? Now we have things like Snapchat. I use Snapchat throughout college frequently. It's a great way for students in a class to get to know an acquaintance a little bit more. Yes, you have close friends and family on there, absolutely. But Snapchat takes that one layer off of, okay, it's okay to add people that you might not know that well. You can consolidate that communication into this specific app. GroupMe. GroupMe's funny. We attend, we'll call it dozens at this point of conferences across the country. Oftentimes we will meet with faculty members who are very proactive, they're very inspired, and frankly, they're tired of trying to communicate with students through things like maybe it's an LMS chat box or it is email. And they realize this is not an effective way to communicate with our students. We have to use something that they're already familiar with. So they will bring in their own tools into the classroom. GroupMe, WhatsApp, we've seen Discord a handful of times. There's a couple sides to this coin, right? One side of the coin, you have a teacher that you could say, yeah, you're proactive, you care about your students, you want to engage with them, you want to let them know, hey, we have a vehicle to go back and forth, answer any questions, I can help you, so on and so forth, right? Now, the other side of that coin is it is an absolute nightmare for the institution because this is a tool that is not supported at the institution's level. We were just talking about this, James and I, a couple of weeks ago. GroupMe, they released an update, and it was just an email that came through, and it was talking about GroupMe for Campus. And what they promote is student-owned. Faculty doesn't have access or insight unless they're invited by the student, which is a weird paradigm, to be a part of these groups, right? We're talking no FERPA compliance. We're talking no security, accessibility, all things that fall under that umbrella, right? GroupMe in itself, if you guys are facing this, whether you know it or not, you likely have teachers. You could even be a teacher that's using this in your classroom, something like GroupMe at least. It's happening. It's happening all over because teachers and students are looking for a better way to engage in the classroom. Okay. Now, we talk about different ways to engage and what it looks like from a student's perspective, those digital habits. Before we jump to a couple different slides, this slide is super important, right? I could sit here all day and talk about how a student would like to engage, what works, what doesn't. If we don't have any data to back it up, we're frankly just talking heads up here and wasting your time. Email, 67% of students don't want to use email to communicate. Secret to absolutely nobody, right? Text message. Text message is very interesting for institutions. I went over that stat on the slide before, talking about how students will be on their phone roughly 262 times a day. It makes a lot of sense to think this device right here, if my background didn't blur it out, is the number one spot to reach them, right? A lock screen. You talk about real estate, grabbing attention in a dopamine-driven age. That lock screen is key. Now, the problem is the spam texts that come through. I'll give you a personal example of mine. I went to Western Michigan University in a land far, far away from Texas called Kalamazoo. And very similar to a lot of students, I went through the process, called a hair pulling process of going through financial aid, right? I can still hear that Bronco Express jingle every time I had to call and sit and wait for 30 minutes to contact somebody. Now, I've graduated and it's been years and years since I went to Western Michigan. I get text messages probably 4 or 5 times a year from WMU Financial Aid. I hate to knock my old alma mater, but they send me messages all the time like this. I have never once clicked on that message. It comes through from a number I don't recognize. I delete it. Now your students can actually delete your messages and report them as spam. So your delivery is even worse now. We live in this world, right? We all know somebody who probably sent money to a Nigerian prince or their grandparents got scammed. We are so trained and conditioned where even now, right, when you started your job, I'm sure you watched a couple videos of don't lift with your back and all things about phishing. If you don't recognize it, don't click on it. Your students are the exact same way. I have never clicked on that financial aid message that comes through to update my information. Do I even know it's coming from them? No idea, right? I post that I went there on LinkedIn. This is public information. If somebody wanted to pull my information and get me in a scam, all I would have to do is click on that because they know one thing about me. Your students are the same exact way, right? Phone calls. So we also had the chance to meet with professionals across different programs. You guys might be familiar with programs such as Trio and so on. If you're calling your students, which a lot of these programs do, you face a couple barriers. Number one, I do this to my dad all the time, right? We have a difference in generations here. My dad would love to just give me a phone call and we can chat for 10 minutes and he can go over all the information he wanted to. I was not very similar to the students that you guys are working with, right? I was not brought up in that phone call generation. I decline his message and I sent him a text message that says, "What's up?" Drives him crazy. It's how I would like to communicate, right? It's how this new generation of students prefer to communicate. It's very simple. The thing is, too, if you were to call a student and you don't have access to them on the phone, you could leave a voicemail. Maybe if the voicemail box is actually open, but you don't have a level of transparency to see if a student ever even listened to it. So we're being proactive, right? We're going through emails and text messages and LMS messages and all things that fall under that umbrella, but it's not effective. James, anything you would add there?
I think it's interesting, everyone. I mean, we look at this paradigm and we say 67% of the students we're trying to reach right now through email don't want to or won't check their emails. The other percentage, rarely does. What causes institutions, from that is they say, well, let's just text them, just as Ben talked about. They don't want that either because you're not in their address book. They don't know who you are. They don't trust it. Trust is going to be a huge aspect of all the psychology that goes into the digital habits of our students and engaging them further. Beyond that, they don't want our phone calls. Again, more in rare cases from a classroom perspective, but there are programs that utilize these classrooms. And ultimately, the combination of these three things really results in the image that you see here. This becomes the reality for your students. Somewhat of a bombardment of messages coming from not only the academic institution, but all other distractions in their life. If the student doesn't know who the message is coming from and can't count on the consistency of those messages and the habitual engagement that they're accustomed to, then the message will undoubtedly go and be lost. Students are seeking consistency. They need to know that they can count on something that is specific to that area of their lives. Why that's so important is because, just like it is for all of us, when a message comes through a certain channel to me to engage, whether a friend, a family, work, school, colleagues, whatever that may look like, it needs to come through a channel where that was invited. We cannot backpack off of other channels, right? I need to be known. I need to be seen. We need to ultimately provide a solution for our students that circumvents these realities that they are living. Dedicated messaging apps are the very thing that actually circumvent the very struggles that our students face and that we face in trying to capture and maintain their attention. Now, I want to be clear here. A dedicated messaging app is different than a dedicated app. We oftentimes will meet with institutions that have very proactively and in really impressive ways built an application that's almost a one-stop shop for all things. And all things are their schedule, the map of the campus, where they can find this, where they can find that. And within the little corners of this is a communication aspect where they should be able to get a hold of somebody on campus. The interesting piece of this is that communication, as kind of the great mediator of all conversations and relationships, communication is so strong and needs to be so ingrained and threaded into what we do to better understand expectations and everything that's going on, that it is necessary to be clear that when we talk about a dedicated messaging app, we mean dedicated messaging app. And that'll make a little more sense here in just a second. But with that is clear that millennials and Gen Z, they use dedicated messaging apps almost always to communicate, engage with the world around them. Ben talked about this a couple of slides earlier. It's not surprising to any of us at all to see the amount of time spent on somebody's phone every 5 minutes. It's being picked up about 262 times per day and almost averaging almost 113 hours a month. So this is, again, news to nobody. It's clear as the sun on a blue sky day that we need to reach the students where they are. That's not news to you, but how we can truly access them, why, that's what really matters here. And as we think about this, as a dedicated messaging app that integrates into your system, such as an LMS, an SIS, whatever that may look like, your institution immediately has the ability to send messages through a dedicated channel that not only students prefer, but also provides the context clues needed for them to trust it. We talked about the importance of students' trust. If I receive a message and it's from an unknown number, or a phone call from an unknown number, or another email with the same context clue, I'm not sure where it's coming from. I cannot trust it. I'm not engaging with it. On the left side here, for example, looking at the image, you'll see a couple of important aspects of the message depicted. First and foremost, meeting the students where they are is critical. So the lock screen of their phone, Ben talked about this being a very important piece of real estate in a student's life. I couldn't agree more. We have to meet them where they are. And that's obviously on their phones based on the data that we're all aware of. Beyond there, the second context clue that tells me as a student that I can trust the message that has come through and that I can engage with this is, as a student, I know that I'm taking Intro to Computer Science. I know who Dr. Goodney is. When this message comes through, because it's a dedicated messaging app, again, dedicated for a specific purpose, not competing with others, I know that the purpose of that message has context in my mind to a level of engagement and prioritization that I need to provide. Students are doing this all the time within their apps. When they receive a message through text, there's a certain level of urgency that arises immediately. It's that dopamine drip that Ben talked about. When a message comes through Instagram or Snapchat, whatever it may be, they know exactly the purpose of that message, or at least exactly what it should be. And if it does not meet those requirements, it will be dismissed as quickly as it was opened. So ultimately, we cannot backpack off of another channel that we as an institution do not own. We are living the results of that this very day. And I think that nationwide, we see decline in enrollments. We see lack of retention rates holding their ground, continuation, course completions. Again, going back to that first slide, if we can truly capture and maintain our students' attention, what will that allow us to do? Dedicated messaging apps are showing that attention can be captured and maintained to prioritize their scholastic academic journeys. The issue that we have faced, and this is really important to understand, is that not only does a dedicated messaging application for you need to integrate with your systems, and there's a number of reasons why. We look at data access, ownership of that data, safeguards, compliancy, protections for students, faculty, administration, but it also needs to be integrated so that it can institutionalize at scale. Student adoption is a critical piece of everything that we do. If the students adopt, then we can maintain that attention. And that's something that we hear all the time. Well, man, this sounds good. I mean, it matches the research and the data, but are we sure they will adopt? And I'll tell you, the fact that there are a variety of applications on your campuses that, we have 3 depicted here: Discord, WhatsApp, GroupMe, that students are already using at and on campus, whether again, online, in person, whatever that may be. These are applications that are ultimately telling us that they are not satisfied with the current institutionalized means that we are communicating with them. When they are bringing something else to the party, that just means that what we provided isn't enough. It's not doing the trick. And to do that, we need to start to ask ourselves, okay, well, how can we meet the needs of a student, but also meet the needs of an institution? If as a student, I bring a Discord, a WhatsApp, a GroupMe, or another application into the classroom, the moment that a faculty member enters that, I risk compliance, FERPA, I risk security, safety, and these are risks that we cannot run. Now, the other side of the equation that we'll hear often is, well, I've got to get a hold of my students somehow. And yes, we do. Because of that, the fact that students are using these apps actively, again, I can confidently say as the case as we've met with institutions nationwide, day in and day out, is a loud signal from our students that they are not only not satisfied with the current means that we are providing, but that the data that we have shared today and the research that backs this is that student behavior truly does lean towards a categorized, purpose-built, purpose-dedicated channel for those priorities in their life, school being one of those. So with that, we need to meet the students not only where they are in a dedicated way, but purpose-built for education that meet the needs of the student and the faculty experience, which is going to be critical.
Data, data, data. We can sit up here We can talk all day. The numbers back up what we've been talking about. I can't even begin to imagine how many conversations we've had about this same exact topic, whether it's frustrated faculty members, frustrated admin being frustrated at the faculty members for bringing in their own tools. When it comes to something like a dedicated messaging app for your institution, there's a lot of institutions that were in the same exact spot that many of you may be in right now. For something like Pronto, we now work with over 300 institutions. We're very, very proud to be partnered with TXDLA. We've had the chance to attend that conference both in person and now having the chance to run a virtual webinar. You guys are awesome. Just wanted to take some time to say that. This would never even be a topic of conversation if it didn't come down to the people on this call and the care that it takes with all of your students and really everyone on campus, right? The main goal here at the end of the day comes down to belonging, retention. I could give you 10 buzzwords, but we don't need them, right? We're really happy to have this opportunity and really happy to have been doing this for a handful of different years now and meeting with professionals like yourselves. This number continues to grow and students continue to have that sense of belonging, whether it be in classroom or different areas of campus.
Thanks, Ben. Lastly, the data that we're going to show in this next slide is proprietary to Pronto as a dedicated messaging app, purpose-built for education, and that's, you can take that as it is. But what we really want to focus on less than Pronto is the ultimately the principles that have been shared, the strategies that have been shared through a dedicated messaging app. We believe stand true with any dedicated messaging application that were to be institutionalized at your institutions. Pronto being one of those. We've been fortunate enough, as Ben said, to work with over 300 institutions and have seen the outcomes that come from this. Again, communication is such a hot topic. Engagement is such a hot topic, catching that attention. But with that comes the feeling of, if we are not truly driving outcomes, then what's it all for? And so we hope more than anything that in the data shown here that that we strongly believe that this obviously rings true for Pronto, but rings true for any dedicated messaging app that you were to institutionalize, purpose-built for your school. In the first year of using Pronto for education, the schools that we work with have retained an average of 11% more continuing students. Faculty members are saving a ton of time not dealing with archaic systems, but rather leveraging Pronto as their means of communicating and engaging their students. Schools that are leveraging Pronto have reported on average 63% decrease in dropped courses each semester. Again, we are confident in the principles shared today and believe that these outcomes would stand true with any dedicated messaging app purpose-built for education that meets the requirements therein, that we're not trying to add on too many things. We're not filling, other applications with calendars and meal tickets and all these other things where a student can know as communication is everything that we work with every priority in our life, that the communication becomes the forefront and is most important. The data above that you see here speaks to the impact that a dedicated messaging application can have, and for Pronto specifically has had on more than 300 schools that we work with, and that's been a phenomenal thing. To conclude, and before we turn the time right back over to Rhonda, one, thank you again for the time spent, but more importantly, I think our invitation to you is to reevaluate the tech stack that you currently have in place to access and engage your students. Seek to align your tech stack with what's actually used. We cannot continue to force archaic tools upon our students that their parents used while in school. That's just to say we live in a different age. There's different hardware. There's different software. Because of that, every day, every conversation we're in, we will hear something along the lines of, my student or my kids, they are always on their phone. I would have never done this. Or how do you use this Insta thing or that Snap thing? Each one of those comments is another proof that it is a different day and age. Because of that, if we truly want to engage our students in a distracted digital age, we need to do such in a way that meets the digital habits and the demands of our students in today's day and age, which is going to be most important. So again, thanks so much for the time that you've allowed us to be with you. These bite-sized learning sessions are always so fantastic. And as Ben mentioned earlier, the fact that you are on this session today shows the care that you have for the students that you serve. We hope to be able to, more than anything, share and open a new understanding of the students that we serve and why they act the way they do, the psychology that goes behind those actions and behaviors. And as we begin to understand those digital habits, our ability to engage them in this distracted digital age will increase significantly. And we're awfully grateful to be a part of that and feel fulfilled every time that one more student or one more faculty member is able to find further success, matriculate and graduate for, a successful life and hope that can continue on in their day. So if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. We'd be more than happy to share any strategies with you or other research that we've found. With that, thank you again. And Rhonda, we'll turn it back over to you. Appreciate the time.
Yes, thank you, James and Ben. I do have a question in the chat. It's from Judy Harmon. She says, are these direct messaging apps fully accessible for those using assistive technology?
They are, yeah. So that's another part of the purpose built for education aspect that we're, again, maybe too profoundly focused on. And accessibility, right? DEIA, diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility. Each one of these aspects goes into how we build every aspect of our software, the operating systems that are being used to make sure that those are accessible for everyone. As we're all aware, that's a continually moving target that we hope to be able to continue to aim for and hit with each year and every criteria that is sent our way. So yes, we do have all that accessibility in place.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and take over the screen again.
Please do.
So thank y'all so much. Such great information to always think about how do we engage students and where are our students now? And even going beyond that, even staff, employees, I think could have the same kind of thoughts as students are coming out of college, going into the workforce. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with y'all again one more time. So again, want to thank you for going through engaging students in a distracted digital age. If I could talk. Want to remind everyone that on October 9th is our next bite-sized learning. It's going to be on AI and accessibility. Again, if you want to go and look at what we've been doing, anything that's coming in the future, you can go to our txdla.org, go to webinars, bite-sized learning, and you get all the information there. Couldn't do any of this without our amazing sponsors, including Pronto, which is a gold partner of ours. So we have our premium partner in Anthology, our platinum partner in digital resources, then our gold partner, silver and bronze. And we thank them very much for everything that they do for us. Want to remind you again on our Texas DLA Fall Leadership Workshop, Discover Your Unique Leadership Style, October 16th through the 18th in Marble Falls. And also our conference, our 2025 conference is going to be in Denton, March 30th through April 2nd. And the virtual is April 22nd through the 23rd. Don't forget, call for proposals are open, and we will be opening up our registration within the next week. Would love you, if you're not a Texas DLA member, would love for you to join Texas DLA. It is only $50, the best membership price you can ever have to get lots of amazing people and networking and content from within Texas DLA. And you can also come and see us in a lot of different places besides just these webinars. We're on X, we're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and also YouTube. So I want to thank again everyone for coming and hope that y'all have an amazing time. And again, thank you, James and Ben, for a very thought-provoking and things that we need to think about as we move forward.